Hello everyone, this is Keeping It Simple, a short dedicated to women over 50. Today I want to talk to you about tariffs. You may be wondering what tariffs has to do with women over 50. Well, they can affect people over 50 and seniors more than you realize. But before we get into a little bit of what I want to talk about, let's get a clear understanding of what tariffs are and how they work. I think it needs to be explained since I saw a clip of the president, Donald Trump, saying that the country that's being tariffed actually pays for the tariffs. A tariff is a tax on imported goods, usually a percentage of the price of such goods. Companies that imports goods pays the tariffs, or they pay the tax to the government of whatever country they're in. Companies may or may not pass off the tariffs cost to consumers. In this day and age of greed, it would be my guess that they do pass on the cost to the consumers. So what's the purpose of enacting tariffs now? 1, they are used to ensure protection for domestic companies from unfair competition. 2, it can be a retaliatory measure against other countries' unfair trade practices. And 3, the reason America may be imposing tariffs in 2025 is to raise revenue for the government. In today's world, tariffs can increase the prices on the goods and groceries that we buy and reduce product availability and hurt an economy. So let's look at the past of tariffs in this country. In the humble beginnings of the United States, tariffs were one of the pillars that led to the development and industrialization of the United States. In the beginning, there were few jobs and no industry, so in order to survive, tariffs had to be the go-to. Tariffs were the greatest source of government revenue until income taxes were made into law in 1913. In the 1800s, the Republicans, the Republican Party, they were for high tariffs, while the Democrats only wanted modest tariffs on goods. You see, before the Civil War, each state had their own rights, and the federal government could not enforce a greater will or vision upon them like they do now. Democrats, who were mostly Southern slave owners enjoying wealth under free labor, did not want high tariffs as it raised the cost of imported foreign goods and invited retaliatory tariffs that lowered demand for their agricultural goods. At that time, the Southern states imported mostly foreign goods. They didn't mess with the North too much. Totally divided, different morals and values. Now, because the United States had no federal income tax before 1913, tariffs were extremely high at times, but there were no tax burdens. In 1927, the League of Nations held a conference with an aim to do away with tariffs. France was the first country to do the opposite of that meeting, and they kept tariffs. In 1928, the U.S. economy was having big gains due to electricity and mass production of cars. Before the late 1920s, people still relied on horses and candlelight. As a result of replacing horses with cars, trucks, and tractors, overproduction and surpluses became widespread among the American farmers. They were the ones who was really starting to feel it before the actual Great Depression. So a senator named Smoot believed that by raising tariffs, it would alleviate overproduction in America because food exports were down. By late 1929, we're already in the early stages of the Great Depression. Smoot rallied another tariff increase during this time. And as farmers were struggling the most, Herbert Hoover, while running for president, promised tariffs to help farmers out. Hoover, a Republican, won the presidency, and both the House and Senate had a Republican majority. Does all of this sound familiar?
Oh, yes.
Okay, after the bill was passed and enacted, the world responded with retaliatory tariffs against the United States, and also by raising prices of American goods in their countries. American exports thus fell. Canada, France, Great Britain, they retaliated. So the prosperity that had been promised to the American people and the American farmers actually made the Great Depression worse. In 1932, during midterm elections, and also it was time for the president to be reelected, 12 Republicans lost their seats as they were flipped to Democrats, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the Democratic president, was voted in. The 1932 Democratic majority promised to lower tariffs, and by 1942, the United States was headed towards free trade. Let me just say this. All that has been done between 1942 and now cannot just be undone. It seems we have a president that wants to go back to no income tax and the reliance of solely on tariffs. If America had never implemented income tax and payroll tax, then tariffs would probably still be the thing. But they did implement taxes, and now the United States has, or rather had, they got free trade agreements with over 20 countries. Benefits from free trade are economic growth, global market opportunities, and the strengthening of diplomatic ties and alliances with other countries. Canada and Mexico, who are neighbors to the United States, were a part of this free trade, and it makes so much sense to get along with your neighbors. Don't you think? Right now, there are those who think that what Donald Trump is doing will bring American companies back from overseas to once again operate on American soil. Let's say they all come back and they produce again in America. It's my guesstimate that there wouldn't be enough exporting of American goods and not enough Americans buying because of the higher prices due to the higher cost associated with manufacturing in the United States. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to say that companies should stay overseas. I'm not a big fan of companies being overseas enjoying cheap labor, but the damage has been done. They should have never been allowed to go in the first place. And they are responsible. These companies, these big companies that went overseas for cheap labor, they are responsible for China being the number 2 economy in the world. You know they want to be number 1, right? And they're trying to cripple the American dollar. They are in a position of strength, and they are not going to be stopped by tariffs. Not unless the tariff war causes the global economy to collapse. As for Americans, Trump's tariffs plan is killing the stock market. I hear we are in a recession now. And as you know, the stock market determines the health of the economy. When it's doing good, people spend more. When it's doing bad, they reserve. So Trump's tariff plan has not only started retaliatory tariffs on the countries he's targeted, they are also opting not to even buy American goods. They would rather trade with other countries who they say have better goods and services anyway than those of the United States. And finally, Trump's tariffs hurts the American people. He keeps talking about making all this money. He's not making any money. People are losing jobs, being laid off. And higher prices are the results of the tariffs on goods imported into America from American companies in India and China. As long as these companies can put the import tax into the prices, there's no need for them to come back home to workers demanding higher wages, benefits, and unions. The bottom line to the mega rich is how to make more money, not give it away. So, look, I'm not an expert. I'm just saying, and I'm just trying to learn as I research. If you think tariffs are a good idea, let me know, and let me know why. I honestly think they are not a good idea, and it's coming from a place of greed among the billionaires of the world. They are all probably working together. They got Trump keeping us distracted. This is just a theory. I'm not saying this is the truth. But one way to put them back into perspective is to lead them to themselves. Show them that they are not important and buy from small businesses and learn how to survive without their designs for living. Now, wrapping this up, to go back to the beginning, as a woman over 50, and for my seniors on fixed incomes, higher prices for us is not fair. I'm just one with an opinion, and I don't think tariffs are the answer in an already shaky economy. I think it'll only make things worse once it's all said and done. Now, that's it. I had my say. Thank you for watching.